Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about 2024 interior design trends that I'm not excited about. This is a companion video to last week's video where I talked about trends that I am excited about. But these are the trends that are coming down the road that I don't particularly care for. Now, let's be honest here, okay? So just because I don't like them doesn't mean they're bad, okay? If you love them, you just have at it. I'm just pointing out why I don't like them. And also, maybe don't like them is actually strong. I'm not excited about them, which means like there's nothing maybe offensive about some of these. Some of them are offensive, but some of them are not offensive. They're just not for me, and they're just not making me excited. Do you know what I mean? So that's what this is about. And again, if you don't follow trends, then don't follow trends. But this is the stuff that shows up in the stores, unfortunately, because it's stuff that I don't particularly care for. But just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not for you, doesn't mean it's not for somebody else. So we're gonna talk about these things, even if I'm not particularly jazzed about them. Let's get going. Okay, first up on my list is gonna be color blocked curtains. I first saw these at West Elm, I don't know, like a year or so ago, and then I started to see them all over, and I was like, this feels very 80s to me. I don't know why, I don't really like them. Actually, I do know why. I'm gonna tell you why I don't like them. Curtains or, your draper, they do such a good job of making your room seem taller, right? Like it really can create sort of a grand, beautiful space. It can just sort of make a space feel taller. It can make those windows feel grander. It could just really do such a great job of providing some sort of verticality into your space, which I really love about curtains. That's one of the best parts. But the color blocked ones, I get what they're trying to do. It's trying to sort of be a little bit more two-toned, where you've got like a cohesive sort of color palette and you're trying to work a couple of different colors together, maybe do a pop of color in an otherwise neutral curtain. I get it, but they stunt the space. Like they just make the windows look smaller. They make the whole room look smaller. Everything looks stunted when you have color block curtains. This also includes the ones that are like just kind of like the stripe at the bottom. They remind me of like the wallpaper borders that people had in their showers in the 90s, It's that same kind of idea, but brought into a curtain. Not really doing it for me. I'm just sorry. If you like them, great, fabulous. You have a good time, as I said at the beginning of the video. But for me, I just think I have a problem with how they stunt these spaces. And I'm just like, this is not something that I want for my own room. And this is not something I think that looks really, really good in my opinion. I like drapery panels that just do a really good job of making a space feel really grand, really beautiful, or you don't even have to do drapes at all, by the way. There's no rule, you don't have to. But the color blocked ones just really stunt the space and make them feel really small and stubby, and I don't like that. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be cork. Now, okay, you might say like, cork's a natural material, so it looks really cool and it's kind of textured, and you might think that I would like it. I just think it looks cheap. Because I think cork, whether that's cork floors, using it in furniture pieces, or using it on a wall as a wall treatment, it just feels cheap. It just feels like it's just, there's an office-y cork vibe that I just don't really get. I don't really want this on my wall, Like, it reminds me almost of the chalkboard walls with the chalkboard paint that I feel like was really popular 6-7 years ago, which, might be fun in a kid's playroom, but not necessarily like a living room, you know what I mean? Or even a kitchen, which is what I think a lot of people were kind of getting a little crazy with their chalkboard walls. I feel like the cork thing is kind of the same. Like it's just inevitably going to be used for people to like hang their art and just sort of use for, it's got push pin, tacky sort of vibes to me. It's not a durable, timeless material that I think is gonna make sense for most people long-term. So it's a bit of a skip for me. Now, I'm not saying it's the most offensive thing in the entire world, but it just doesn't really work for me. And even in floors, cork flooring, we've been down this road before. We've seen this before. It's been popular in decades past, and I don't think it dated really well. I don't think it looks particularly good, even in those sort of kind of mid-century sort of interpretations of using cork flooring. And I don't think it really makes a ton of sense for here in 2023. So I think this is a trend that, yes, I'm seeing some people doing it, but it's not particularly a trend that I'm going to buy into or that I'm particularly excited about. Okay, next up is going to be the blobs. The blobs. The blobs continue. Okay, so we talked about biophilic design, which was a trend I am excited about. And I talked a little bit about in that video about organic shapes and sort of new ways of not necessarily just using straight curves or arches or even just straight clean lines or just in general clean lines, but really seeing a lot of kind of movement and sort of organic shapes. And biophilic design, as I mentioned in that video, is much more nuanced sort of interpretation of sort of bringing nature into the home. But blobs is sort of just an organic like shape, I guess, that is, but it becomes shapeless. Do you know what I mean? Like there's actually like no shape to it. And I'm seeing so many of these brought into really high-end design and also sort of cheap postmodern anthropology / Urban Outfitters, sort of Gen Z sort of vibes. I'm just seeing so many of these blobs all over the place. The blobby coffee table, we're seeing the blobby art. We're seeing the blobby mirrors, like lots of blobs. And they're just shapeless and they're blobby and I don't really like them. Now, mixing and blending interesting shapes and even bringing and mixing in some organic shapes into spaces that have some clean lines to sort of rough it up a little bit can be really fun. Bringing in maybe something like an organic modern space, bringing in some actual natural materials that don't always necessarily work in straight lines can be really cool. So for example, wooden sculptural pieces, for example, or reclaimed wood, which is not always my favorite wood type, but still it's like organic and it's maybe a little bit more rustic or a little bit more weathered or worn, but like authentically so. I think that kind of can make sense in spaces because it's real and works with that style. But a lot of these sort of organic blobs, they don't really work for me. I'm just, again, like, you know, I understand a lot of people are really having fun with postmodern trends and they want to move away from sort of the mid-century modern, straight, clean, modern lines. I understand that. And it can be a little bit fun here and there, but by and large, as a trend, it's just not one that I'm super excited about and not one that I will be participating in, I think, in 2023. It's not the worst, and a little bit can be fun, but so much of it is just too much. Okay, next on my list is going to be, it's kind of a little bit specific, but bear with me, and it's kind of building on the last one, which is organically shaped sort of resin tables. You might not know what I'm talking about, but these resin tables are all over the place, whether they're coffee tables or they're side tables. Okay, you've got some examples here, so now you know what we're talking about here, and now you're like, oh yes, I've seen those around. Okay, so we're on the same page. Resin tables, I've just seen so many of them, and I get it. It's that effort to create, to want something handcrafted, to want something that doesn't feel so manufactured. It feels special, it feels organic, it feels like, you know, rough and natural, and like someone had like almost sculpted it from clay. That's what people think when they think of these side tables and these coffee tables that I see all over the place. Here's why I don't really love these. I just think that it looks like a craft project sometimes that went bad. Like you took a table and then you were like, oh, I could make that at home. And then you made this by accident, you know? That's sort of kind of how I see it. And it's not particularly timeless in my personal view. And I just think that it looks like a DIY gone bad. You know, like I'm a big fan of getting people to make beautiful handmade things that are gorgeous and fabulous, and pay people to make beautiful, gorgeous handmade things that you could bring into your home. But those shouldn't feel so crafty. You know what I mean? This feels really crafty to me. It just feels like someone tried to make a real table and failed miserably. And look, I get it because I have no skill, but like this is clearly someone skilled made this, and I don't think it looks great for that reason. I just think sort of like the modeled sort of textured decoupage, someone, you know what I mean? Like a clay-like sort of surface coming from these, that's trying to happen with these tables, isn't one that feels high-end to me, but I understand why people are doing it. I understand where it fits in terms of the styles that are really popular right now. But this particular style of table, I think is just not one that I am particularly excited about. And they are everywhere. This is like, I have seen the funky, beautifully, structurally interesting architectural side chair and the hand resin coffee table combo about 10,000 times. And it's very popular in sort of high-end design right now. And I get it, it's super on trend. I can buy into some of the structural or architectural sort of interesting, cool side chairs. And I can understand why we're having fun with some different textures in our coffee tables, but these resin tables just are not it. They're not it for me, sorry. Okay, next up on my list is going to be chrome. Chrome is everywhere, and its cousin, stainless steel. So chrome, shiny silver metal is everywhere at the moment. I feel like it's very, very popular. Metal trends, I don't really super buy into. I don't really care. It's just not that interesting to me. I'm just like, you know what? Whether you're going with something fairly neutral like black, whether you're going with something cool toned like brushed nickel, or you're going with chrome, or you're going with something warm like lacquered brass or brushed gold, like whatever, work with your palette that you got, work with the design style you got. I'm not a big I don't really super buy into all the different metal trends. Just not my thing. I just get the metal that makes sense for you. I don't love just chrome though in general, because I just don't love silver shiny metal. It's just not for me, and that's just not really my thing, but it is gaining in popularity. I do think a little bit of chrome or stainless is oftentimes going to just sneak into the construction of furniture pieces. You know, it's very, very common to buy a sofa and, you know, they've got chrome legs sort of sitting on the bottom, or some chrome detailing might be in there just because it is the material that makes sense for furniture construction. But I don't think that from an artistic perspective and a aesthetic point of view that it's something that really works for me. But you're seeing it all over the place. You're seeing it again in furniture, sometimes in those little small subtle ways, but sometimes in big bold ways where there's clear aesthetic choice to using chrome, whether it be also in lamps, table lamps, ceiling, like any sort of lighting fixtures, seeing lots and lots of chrome, but as well as some detailing in furniture that I'm not necessarily a massive, super big fan of because it's just not for me. And you know, the metal trends come and go. We all remember rose gold from 2017. We get it. We remember the rose gold, right? And then there was the champagne, and we all, okay, yeah, we're all there. And then everyone's like, oh, we love brass. Oh, we hate brass. Like, I get it. Like, the metal trends go in and out. I'm just not super passionate about them. I just think choose the metal that works for you and makes sense for the rest of your design. Chrome, I think, is fairly like timeless, just like I think matte black, and I'll go so far as to say antique brass as well, are like pretty timeless materials that tend to just go in and out, but who really cares because they're all fine. Chrome is having a bit of a moment. See it trending in 2024 and beyond, I think, but it's just not one that I'm super jazzed about myself because it's just not my metal. That's okay. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be scalloped edges. The scalloped edge profile, you know what I'm talking about? Whee! That's been around for a little bit. It's been very popular. It's been overused, and it just feels very ruffly to me, and I don't really like it as a pattern. I just don't think it's something that really appeals to me. When it's done in fabric, it looks, as I said, like ruffles, like in pillows or in, you know, blankets, throws, things like that. I don't really like it. Countertop edge profile, maybe in a commercial setting, if you're doing something really cool and funky and weird, and like you can do that in a commercial setting, like a restaurant, a coffee shop, whatever, you know, feel free to get creative. Do I think it necessarily goes in everybody's kitchen? No, probably not. And so for me, you know, even in lighting fixtures, you're seeing scalloped edges, or just, this is also a continuation as well of the sort of curved lines. This is all part of the same sort of curved post-pandemic trend that we're seeing, which again, I like some interpretations of that personally, but the scallops, I don't really care for. Again, I think sometimes it can read quite feminine, which is okay, but it also can read really juvenile as well at the same time, especially just as a pattern. And for me, that is why I don't really care for it that much. It's just, you know, it oftentimes gets brought into some of the postmodern designs that are really popular, which I don't really love. And it feeds in that plus some blobs, and like, that's a 2023 design right there that I'm not a big fan of. Okay, and then the last one I want to talk about is the, like, I'm just gonna call it the one material bathroom, okay? The one material, usually it's marble, okay? These are bathrooms that just have one material. Like, you put the material on the floor, you put it on the wall, you put it on the ceiling, you put it on the shower niche, you put it on the everything. Like, it's just, you build the sink out of it. Like, people, I feel like in high-end design for a while, because the statement marble trend has just been so huge, and because bathrooms are such an interesting space because it's such a small area that I think sometimes people get excited to just take one material and put it everywhere. It feels very popular in contemporary design to really limit the amount of like materials that you're using. And so I think picking one material and just putting it everywhere all over the bathroom can be really fun for a lot of people. That is fine, except sometimes it reads as really overwhelming. You create a marble coffin, and that's not what I don't want to die in that. And I don't really like it. So yes, there are some super cool marbles out there. You guys know that I love going to a stone yard and picking out a cool marble. That's neat. Yes, do it in the sink, maybe put it on a wall tile, maybe put it in the shower tile, but maybe also choose a different tile that works with it on the floor, and maybe a different tile in the shower, and maybe a different tile in the ceiling, or maybe put paint on the ceiling, or paint on the walls. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to just pick the one stone and then put it everywhere. I feel like I've seen that so often. And can I just say, and I say this as a person who literally spends their job sitting in this chair and is like the laziest, I'm not even really in the design community, but if I am, I'm the laziest person in the design community. So forgive me. I'm self-reflecting. I know I don't work all that hard, but still, I will say it feels lazy. You know what I mean? Like, it feels a bit lazy to just choose a material. And again, I say that as a person who spends their time, a guy who sits in his chair, armchair, talking about design. So like, I get it. But do you know what I mean? Like, it feels lazy. You go in, you pick a beautiful stone, not hard. And then, I mean, we love it. Like, it's not, go to a stone yard, there's some fabulous stones out there. You're like, yep, you're amazing, you're coming home with me. And then you just go, new idea. Why don't we put it on the floor? Why don't we put it on the ceiling? Why don't we put it on the walls? Why don't we put it in the bathtub? Blah, blah, blah. And it just feels a bit like, it feels lazy. And then you go look at it, it's contemporary, gorgeous, amazing design. And your client's like, If you're a designer and you do that, it's like your client's gonna be wow, because like, who could have seen this coming? But it just feels lazy. All you did is you went to a stone yard, you picked a stone and you just put it on all the surfaces. It doesn't feel particularly creative. I like to personally be excited by, and again, I love a statement stone, but I like to see creativity when you're combining interesting materials together and there's nuance and layers to design rather than just the marble coffin. So I'm gonna say, although not just saying the marble, because it can also be picking one tile and doing everything, like that is also feeling lazy. Like I just feel there's ways that we can have fun and create a layer design with lots of different elements going on, not just picking one stone and running with it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want to see some trends that I am excited about, me and maybe being a little bit more positive, why don't you check out last week's video? I'm gonna link it right over here. Yep, and one of those. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks a lot, bye.